Hello, fellow birders. My name is Denis Kania. Today we're going to be talking about getting better acquainted with our binoculars. On the DuPage Birding Club education channel, we talk about all things bird related. And as I mentioned, today we're going to be trying to get better acquainted with our binoculars. So here's a group of binoculars that we can have a look at for starters. And you can see that there's quite a variety of binoculars. They come in all different shapes and sizes. There are certainly many brands out there to choose from. And depending on the type of birding that you want to do, some of these choices make more sense than others. But we certainly, even though it's frustrating to have all these binocular choices, early ornithologists didn't even have binoculars. The birds that they were looking at were in the hand because they had been shot. So we have a leg up certainly on what their capabilities were. We certainly don't have to shoot everything we're looking at, which is a good thing. So here are some examples. And again, these are just examples, they're not recommendations, but they give you a feel for some of the brand names that are out there. And they also kind of give you a feel for magnification for some of these binoculars. And for starters, we probably need to understand what the numbers mean. So in the example here, this Nikon 8x42 set of binoculars, the 8 is the magnification. So it's magnifying everything by 8 times. So if we look at these Leicas, they're magnifying by 10 times. Again, these Zeiss are 8. Celestrons here are 8. These Bushnells are 7. And these Swarovskis are 10. So there's, a variety of magnifications that we can have. And we have to pair that number up with the second number, which is the objective lens. This here is the objective lens. This is the lens that's going to be letting in the light to improve your image. And if you don't have a lot of light coming in, you're going to have a poorer image. So we want to pair these two numbers up in such a way that we're in a what we consider the sweet spot for binoculars is about a 1:5 ratio. So if you look at Bushnell 7x35 here, that's a 1:5 ratio. So that's exactly what we're looking for. These Swarovskis, these 10x50s, that's again a 1:5 ratio. These Nikons here, 8x42s, that's more or less a 1:5 ratio. So that's kind of where you want to be. As you stray away from that, you're going to be if you're going with a smaller ratio, you're losing light capability, and that's going to affect the image that you have. So we have to keep that in mind as we're looking at binoculars and trying to answer some questions. So let's look at this image, and I tried to produce an image that would equate to what you would see through a pair of 7x42s versus 8.5x42s versus 10x42s. And so starting with this image here, you can see this is a toucan barbet, and it's well lit up and it's easily seen within that image. So as we move on and magnify it a little bit more, you can see that it obviously gets larger, and we magnify it more, it gets even larger. But other things are happening. There's a trade-off that's taking place here. We have a field of view here from this edge to this edge with the 7-power binoculars, and you can see that starts to shrink with the 8.5s, and it shrinks even more with the 10 powers. So as you increase your magnification, your field of view is going to shrink. And the reason that's important is that, let's say, instead of looking at a toucan barbet that's stationary, let's say we're looking at a warbler flitting around up in the treetops and it's on the move. And when you have a larger field of view, it's much easier to track with that bird as it's moving. And it's a little harder for that bird to escape your field of view. Also, when you're starting to just pick up your binoculars to scan for a bird, if you're starting out with a larger field of view, it's a little easier to imagine that you might actually have that bird in your field of view, and then you can center it. It's a little harder to do as the magnification grows. Another thing that's happening, and I alluded to that just a minute ago, you have to have a certain amount of light gathering capability. You can see as your magnification is going up, if you're not increasing your objective lens, your image is going to start looking a little darker, and you can see that slightly here, but certainly when you look at this 10x42, you can see that this is already getting quite a bit darker. So that's another trade-off that you'll be making as you increase your magnification. It all depends, on what kind of birding you're planning to do and what you're willing to put up with. There's trade-offs in everything in the binoculars. So there are so many trade-offs that I can't possibly cover it all here. I certainly didn't intend to cover it all here. So what you can do is you can go to the DuPage Birding Club website, and under one of their tabs, Learn About Birds, you'll find that there's actually an article. And this is a direct link to that article. If you want to save that link, you can do so by just hitting print screen on your laptop right now. And you can save that off to a Word document and print it off later. But at any rate, that would take you directly to it, and you'll get hopefully a better understanding of what all the numbers mean by reading that. But once you do understand the numbers, there are still some questions to ponder. And the first one is, are you interested in comfort, or are you interested in getting the best possible image? So where this comes into play is, as you do increase the magnification, as you do increase that objective lens, your binoculars are going to get heavier. And as they get heavier, they're maybe a little harder for you to carry. So that's where the comfort issue comes in. If you're, a lighthearted birder, you're going to be doing more hiking than birding, then maybe you want to go with the lighter weight binoculars. If you want the best possible image because you're a hardcore birder, then you're going to, put up with the fact that those binoculars get a little heavier. But another thing that you have to take into consideration as far as comfort is how the binoculars are balanced in your hands. And if you are increasing that magnification quite a bit and those binoculars are getting heavy, if your hands are not strong enough to hold those binoculars steady, no matter how much magnification you have, you're defeating the whole purpose, because your hands are unsteady and your hands are shaking. So all that shake is magnified by that higher power just as much as the image is. And so you won't be able to get a very good view. Are you planning to do a lot of birding in woodlands, or are you going to be birding out on wide open grasslands and mudflats? And that's that question of field of view. If you're in the woodlands, I prefer to have a larger field of view. It's easier to locate the birds, and then it's easier to stick with them when they're on the move. If you're out in wide open spaces, it's less of a problem. And you may have some difficulties in approaching some of the birds in wide open spaces. So that magnification might be a benefit, especially if you don't have a scope with you. Having 10 power binoculars would be much better than having the 7s. And there's always budgetary questions. So people always ask me, what kind of binoculars I recommend, and it really has to do with what works best for you, and also what you have in mind as far as your budget. If you don't have a lot of money to spend, you just do the best you can. But if you have that winning lottery ticket and you can get the top line binoculars, then I would say go ahead and do that. You certainly won't be disappointed. You also have to consider whether or not this is a passing hobby, or if you're really a dedicated lifelong birder. And if you are the latter, then you're going to want to pay the extra money and go out and get really good binoculars. But the questions don't end there. The next question is, do you wear eyeglasses? And in many of my field trips or some classes that I teach at the Morton Arboretum, there's always people asking me, I wear eyeglasses, and what should I do with my eyeglasses? Well, if you have eyeglasses, they're to improve your vision, and your eyeglasses, if they're current, should give you the best possible image you can get. So you don't want to throw that away. You want to keep those glasses on. And I've had people say, well, should I take them off and then raise up the binoculars? Well, that's just too many moving parts going on at one time. You're losing precious time. The birds are on the move. So your eyeglasses are actually equipped for either eyeglass wearers or non-eyeglass wearers. So in the case of the Zeiss right here, they have soft cups, eye cups. And so when you're not wearing glasses, then you would have the eye cup extended, as you see here on this barrel. And if you are an eyeglass wearer, because these are soft, these actually fold down over themselves, and they end up looking like this. And that's what you would do if you're an eyeglass wearer. The whole point of the eye cup is to keep this exit lens here, keep that a certain distance from your eye. That's called the eye relief. And that's important for the binoculars to operate at the best abilities. You want to have a certain eye relief. And so we're accomplishing that through this eye cup. Well, if you're already wearing eyeglasses, that accomplishes just what the eye cup extension would do. So you can flatten that out and just wear your glasses and press your binoculars up to those glasses. So this is a soft cup approach. There are also hard cups. So if we look at these Swarovskis here, let's say you are that eyeglass wearer, you would have turned this eye cup clockwise, and that's going to screw all the way down so that it's flat like this. If you're a non-eyeglass wearer, you would screw it counterclockwise and it would rise up just like what we're seeing here. So you're accomplishing the exact same thing that you're doing with these soft cups here, only these are solid. So you should be able to use these binoculars whether you're an eyeglass wearer or not. So the next thing to think about is the fact that your eyes are most likely not identical in their ability to see. So binoculars can compensate for that as well. And the way that you would go about doing that is, we'll go through an example with this pair of Swarovskis here. So I'd pick these binoculars up and I'd be holding them. And so the first thing I want to do is pick some stable stationary object out in front of me. Let's say it's 15, 20, 30 feet away. But you pick some object and then using your the left barrel and your left eye, you would either cover this other barrel and close your eye, one or the other. It's best to cover rather than using the closed eye method. But if you're looking now through just one barrel, it should be the left barrel, and you're going to use the focus knob and focus on that object that's 15, 20, 30 feet away, whatever it is, until it's crisp and looks just right for you. So now you're going to take the binoculars down. You're not moving, the object's not moving because you want to repeat the view in just a minute. So you're now going to take, at least on Swarovskis, this focus wheel actually lifts up. And so you would pull it up this way. And when you do that, it's going to reveal this set of numbers down in here. And this is your diopter adjustment. So now in this position, when we mess with the focus wheel, it's only going to focus the right barrel. This other barrel is now going to stay stationary. So again, we pick up our binoculars and we're going to look at that exact same object that we looked at a minute ago. But now we're going, when we roll the focus wheel to get it perfect, it's only going to be changing the right barrel. Once we decide that the object that we're looking at is in perfect focus, we can then push this cap of the focus wheel, push that back down so that these numbers are hidden. And now when you rotate the focus wheel, these two barrels have been independently calibrated for your vision, and they will still move together, but each one was, has a different starting point because of this adjustment that we just went through. So now whatever you go looking at, those two barrels of the binoculars will work just right for your two different visions in your two eyes. We can do the exact same thing on these other binoculars as well. With the Zeiss, it's a slightly different game. We do have a focus wheel here, but we also have on this barrel, we have the diopter focus wheel right here. So it's independent, working independent of the main focus wheel. But once again, we'll start out looking through this barrel, which is going to be your left barrel, and you're going to use your left eye, and you're going to focus on that stationary object. And then you're going to do the same thing, switch, instead of just looking through the left barrel, you're now going to be looking just through the right barrel. And you're going to then adjust using this knob here, not touching this wheel at all. You're going to use just this knob right here. And once again, when you have that in perfect focus, that's the right diopter adjustment for your eye. So because this is all exposed here and could inadvertently be moved, you're going to want to take note of where that perfect adjustment is for you. So you can see there's this little triangle here that's pointing upward. And so the way the focus wheel here is set right at the moment, it's pointing up at this little negative mark. So you're going to be on the negative side of 0. So you want to make note of that and remember that that's always your mark. So if these do all accidentally get, let's say, rubbed up against some coarse fabric or something, and that wheel changes a little bit. Let's say you're using your binoculars and you feel like you're not getting the best possible image. You can double check that and see if that little triangle is still pointing up right here at that negative sign. And if it is, then you have some other issue. But that would be the first thing to check. So it's basically the same process as what we went through with these Swarovskis. We have another model right here. These are actually some Bushnells. In this case, the diopter adjustment is on the opposite barrel. So everything that we did here, we're just going to do in reverse. And so we'd be looking for our first focus through this barrel, and then we would make our adjustment here. And once again, because this is exposed, you'd want to make note Here we have 0, and then we have -1, -2, -4, and the positive going in the other direction here. So in this case, you've got a little hash mark here, and it looks like it's pointing between 1 and 2. And so you'd want to make note of that. So now these binoculars should be perfectly adjusted, for your use. So there's one more little thing that I wanted to mention today, and that's quite often in my classes, I have people, that are frustrated because they're having difficulty locating a bird, or this happens in some field trips I've been leading as well, but I've seen it multiple times. And I watched people after they've commented that they're a little frustrated with finding the birds. And quite often what I see is that people will, when they see a bird, and then they go to pick up their binoculars, and they actually look down at their binoculars as they raise them up to their eyes. What you want to do, you want to get in the habit of never taking your eyes off of your target. So keep your eyes focused there, and you want to go through an exercise of just bringing the binoculars up to your eyes without ever looking at them. This is something you can do in the comfort of your own home. You can be just sitting in an easy chair and look at different objects, around your family room or living room or whatever, and keep staring at them and practice bringing the binoculars up without taking your eyes off the target. Then you can move outside and do the same thing, and just keep doing that over and over and over again. And pretty soon you'll end up with that muscle memory that athletes love, and you'll be doing this automatically. You'll be seeing birds more quickly, guaranteed, if you do this. It's one of the biggest flaws that I see in birding is that people make that mistake. But never take your eye off the target. That would be the main thing. So once you accomplish that, you're all set to bird. You're going to be birding like a pro. So thanks for taking the time to view this video. Hopefully we've given you some bird food for thought. And I hope you'll join us again in the future as we explore all things bird related.